The Battle of Stalingrad, a frozen inferno that changed the world. In the brutal winter of 1942 to 43, a city on the banks of the Volga River became the crucible in which the fate of the world was tested. This was Stalingrad, where men became legends, steel clashed against willpower, and a turning point in World War II was forged in fire, blood, and ice. From August 23, 1942, to February 2, 1943, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union waged one of the deadliest battles in history. Over 2 million souls were caught in the vortex. What unfolded was not merely a military engagement. It was an apocalyptic showdown of ideologies, national pride, and raw human endurance. The road to ruin, Germany's invasion of the East. In June 1941, Adolf Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest land invasion in history, aimed at crushing the Soviet Union and seizing its vast resources. The German war machine moved swiftly and viciously, driving deep into Soviet territory, leaving devastation in its wake. By 1942, the Nazis had occupied vast swaths of land, and their gaze turned south, to the oil-rich Caucasus and the strategic city that bore the name of their enemy's leader, Stalingrad. Hitler's obsession with capturing the city was fueled not only by its logistical importance, but also by its symbolic weight. He saw its fall as a personal triumph over Stalin, while Stalin, for his part, viewed its defense as essential to the morale of the Soviet people. Neither leader was willing to back down. Inferno on the Volga, the city under siege. The German Sixth Army, led by General Friedrich Paulus, reached Stalingrad's outskirts in August 1942. Accompanied by the ferocious bombing campaign of the Luftwaffe, the city was reduced to ruins. But what the Germans hoped would be a quick victory turned into a nightmare of urban warfare. The Soviets, under the tenacious leadership of General Vasily Chuikov, turned the shattered city into a fortress. With rubble as their ally, they fought tooth and nail in what became known as Rattenkrieg, Rat War. Each block, factory, and stairwell was contested. The fighting was so close that bayonets, knives, and bare hands often replaced bullets. The Red October steel factory, the Barracuda arms plant, and the tractor factory became battlegrounds and bunkers. Soldiers fought from sewers and rubble piles. Civilians dug trenches, served as medics, or simply tried to survive the relentless shelling. Hunger, cold, and fear stalked every corner. Among the defenders was Vasily Zaitsev, a sniper who became a legend by killing hundreds of German soldiers, including enemy snipers sent specifically to eliminate him. His story would later be immortalized in books and film, but he was one of many who turned the ruins of Stalingrad into a graveyard for invaders. The trap is set. Operation Uranus. As winter crept in, the Soviets launched a bold counteroffensive. Operation Uranus, initiated on November 19, 1942. Instead of attacking the entrenched German forces head-on, Soviet troops struck the flanks, held by weaker Romanian, Hungarian, and Italian forces. Within days, the German Sixth Army was surrounded. Now trapped in what became known as the Kessel, cauldron, over 250,000 Axis soldiers faced the full fury of the Russian winter. Hitler forbade retreat. Paulus requested permission to break out. Hitler refused. The Luftwaffe attempted to resupply the encircled army, but the freezing temperatures and Soviet air superiority turned the operation into a disaster. The promised 500 tons of daily supplies rarely topped 100. Soldiers starved, froze, and despaired. Amputations from frostbite became common. Rations included boiled leather, sawdust bread, and soup made from frozen horse meat. Morale collapsed. Suicides increased. Still, the Sixth Army held on, trapped in a city that had become a whitewashed tomb. The final collapse. In January 1943, the Red Army launched its final offensive to crush the remnants of German resistance. Block by block, the Soviets advanced. By January 31st, Paulus, newly promoted to field marshal, a rank never before surrendered, capitulated. He refused to die for Hitler's pride. On February 2nd, the last German holdout surrendered. Of the original 250,000 trapped soldiers, only about 91,000 were taken prisoner, and less than 6,000 would ever return to Germany. The rest died of starvation, exposure, or execution. A world transformed, the aftermath. Stalingrad was left in ruins. More than 2 million people, soldiers and civilians alike, were killed, wounded, or missing. Entire divisions had been wiped from existence. The city was reduced to ash and silence. Yet from those ruins emerged something greater: hope. Stalingrad proved that Hitler's forces could be defeated. It was the first major, irreversible loss for Nazi Germany and marked the beginning of their long retreat from the Soviet Union. For the Soviets, it was a sacred triumph. For the Allies, it was a signal that the tide had finally turned. And for the world, it was a chilling testament to the horrors of war and the unbreakable will of those who refused to surrender. The human cost of the battle reverberated across generations. Entire families were destroyed, cities depopulated, and a scar was left not only on the land, but on the psyche of the world. Survivors, whether Soviet or German, bore the trauma of the inferno for the rest of their lives. The lessons of Stalingrad have influenced modern military doctrine and political strategy. The danger of overreach, the power of morale and tenacity, and the importance of logistics and weather in warfare have all become case studies for generals and historians alike. Stalingrad was not simply about bullets and bombs. It was about the limits of human suffering and the resilience that rises in defiance of annihilation. Legacy of the Inferno. Stalingrad's name, later changed to Volgograd, is etched into history not only for the staggering loss, but for the sheer scale of human endurance it witnessed. It was a city where time seemed to stop, where every heartbeat was a gamble, and where victory was measured not in miles gained, but in seconds survived. The massive Mamayev Kurgan Memorial Complex, topped by the statue The Motherland Calls, stands today as a towering reminder of that sacrifice. Schools, books, and films continue to tell the story, but the full scope of what happened in those 6 months can never truly be captured. Stalingrad wasn't just a battle, it was a reckoning, a freezing crucible that forged a new direction for the war and reminded the world that courage, even in the darkest hours, can reshape destiny. In every corner of the world where injustice rises and tyranny threatens, the spirit of Stalingrad echoes, a ghostly whisper that says, "We endured, we resisted, we prevailed."